The year is 2017. X-Ambassadors have just come off the massive success of their full-length debut album VHS. They go back into their studio to begin work on this much-anticipated follow-up. Singles are released, the album is teased, a tour is already in the making. It seems nothing could stop this push forward in their music. However, months come and pass as there is no word given about the status of the album. Its release is pushed further and further back until one day it is suddenly cancelled. What happened? The band was fully geared up and ready to release. The hype surrounding the album was reaching its peak and then suddenly, nothing. Well, I am your host Natty and this is Nat Reviews, and together we shall take a look into this rather strange and sudden U-turn in the history of popular music. Before we take a look into the album itself and its sudden cancellation, we must first take a look at the band behind the work, X-Ambassadors. X-Ambassadors are an Ithaca-based band from New York, it consisting of brothers Sam and Casey Harris, as well as Adam Levin and Noah Feldsha. They were an independent rock band who toured around for a while, then known simply as Ambassadors. One day while Dan Reynolds of Imagine Dragons was sick in a hospital, he heard an acoustic version of Ambassadors' song, Litost. He then immediately asked his label Interscope to sign the band as soon as would be possible. From here the band became X-Ambassadors and began touring with the likes of Imagine Dragons, Panic at the Disco, Jimmy Eat World, and others. They would continue this mix of touring and studio work for a while before releasing their first two major label EPs, Love Songs, Drug Songs, and The Reason. They took the supporting tours as a way to promote their EPs. It was from here they released their biggest release to date, their debut album VHS. It was this album, in fact, that led me to starting Nat Reviews all those years ago. The album's singles were used through many movies, commercials, and other media, giving the band hits such as Renegades, Unsteady, and Jungle. The album also featured guest appearances from Jamie and Commons and Imagine Dragons themselves. This album giving them their breakthrough success that they had been going after since 2009. They were being given deals to work on making music for movies, shows, and other media. They had been featured on various bands' own albums. Things were seeming to be coming up X-Ambassadors. They were riding high with the success of their debut and were ready for their much anticipated follow-up. So what happened? Let's find out. The joyful album cycle really begins in 2017 when the band began releasing single after single throughout the earlier part of the year. They released Hoping, Torches, The Devil You Know, and eventually Ahead of Myself. Ahead of Myself is really the lead single of the album. It was given a music video, and its video even teased to the next release, Joyful. The songs seemed to be connected, but there was no official album announced yet. That changed in early 2018 when Joyful was finally released as a single, being given its own music video not long after. It was soon after the single's release that the band officially announced their second album, Joyful, to be released soon. The band even put the album up for pre-orders on various sites. Months and months would go by without a word before 1 year after initially announcing the album, it was finally cancelled. The official reason given by lead singer Sam Harris is that the Joyful album no longer represented where they were at, and had decided to move on to making the next album, Orion. There are many theories that could be made and ideas about what else was happening behind the scene. We will be taking a look into those as we go, but let's start with the songs themselves. Now, I have already taken a look at each of them in their own videos before, but now I can offer a bit of a retrospective on them. So let's take a look back over each of them. shall we? Ahead of Myself. Knowing that only singles were released and the other songs of the album are relatively unknown, except perhaps by those who caught the tour, we don't have as many songs to glean anything from than we normally would. But what we do have are singles like this one, Ahead of Myself. It was intended to be the lead single off the album and serve as a transition single between the sound of their work from the VHS era and a move towards a more soulful turn in their music. It is a turn I rather welcomed at the time. Sam has the clear vocal capability to pull it off and the musical creativity to pull it off as a band. Ahead of Myself would begin what is a clear line of how the album likely would have been going and discussing more in depth in the non-single tracks. It was to be about relationships that did not go right, and now Sam finds himself trying to recover from those times, all while growing accustomed to his newfound success. It can all be quite overwhelming for him, and it would quite clearly show in the follow-up single, Joyful. But yes, Ahead of Myself was to be a sign of things to come, as it showed both a stylistic shift for the band and also a shift in their lyrics to be more mature and substantial. The music video ends off as another song drifts in the air, that song being Joyful. Oh boy, now we arrive at what has perhaps grown to be my favorite single off the planned album, and also its namesake, the soulful ballad known as Joyful. It takes the soulful elements of Ahead of Myself and cranks it all the way up, becoming the powerful ballad we know it as today. The single Joyful also presents the band experimenting in the studio with new tricks of recording audio. The choir you hear is all Sam's voice. He stood in various spots of the room in order to achieve the desired effect. The song is very obviously showing through about the time it was written, with the swinging votes line and the stresses that election brought. Then comes the other stresses and trials Sam's life is bringing down onto him. He does not hold back. He opens up and shows the inner thoughts he is having and belts out how they trouble him through his powerful, soulful vocals. The recent troubles of his life are trying to get to him, and though he faces many challenges, he still tries to maintain some sense of hope, a trace of joy through it all. He has gone on record many times about the song and its influences. You can find them in full in the description if you wish to read more into this fascinating song. But one explanation that sticks with me is how he thought of his brother, Casey, who has been blind since birth. He thought of how much challenges he too faces day to day, but still tries to persevere and overcome at the end of the day. It is an impactful thing, that. I already have my opinion set on the song. It got my Song of the Year for 2018. It is one of my all-time favorites from the band and overall. I would wish you check it out if you are interested in it. It also provides a good viewing point on what the album could have been about. More soulfully driven numbers that showcase the band's ability and Sam's absolutely golden vocals. It is a true masterpiece by the band, and I wish it could have been more promoted in its time. The narrative of this album's video continues on in Don't Stay. Now we head into what was yet another single to come off the album, Don't Stay. Enjoy the powerful vocals, emotionally charged lyrics, and slick production? Well, you're in good luck here with Don't Stay. It continues the band's experimentation with new musical styles as they create a more electronic, soul-infused ballad sound. You can hear in his voice how much energy and raw emotion he has as this continues. This album really could have been a whopper if it had been fully released, I feel, based off the strength of these singles. This song discusses about how Sam sees his love is hurting and that he knows that sometimes the best thing one can do is to refuse to help, to let go. Actually going through with the act is rough, but sometimes it is necessary. You may love someone, but if you're causing more harm than good, it is perhaps best you let go. You may not be ready to move on, but the process must be undertaken, else you risk causing further harm to the one you love, and that isn't love. Sam knows this well, and he tears himself apart knowing he must let go, and his vocal energy in this really showcases the toll it is taking on him mentally as he thinks about all this. He finally lets go by the end and is left in a rather empty state, as showcased in the video. Quite the way to lead into the rest of the album it would have been. All these powerful singles released one after the other. It was really impressive to see. It came out of left field for me. I hadn't expected the band that gave us Renegades just years prior to come out and hit it out of the park with powerful single after powerful single. The soul influences really helped the band, as Sam is clearly more of a soulful singer. He does have the edge for a rock delivery, but he certainly has the notes for soul. But yes, I hadn't expected it. Sure, we got some deep songs off of VHS, like Unsteady among others, but nothing like the level of improvement and maturity these singles showed. It really hit me by surprise, and I was eagerly anticipating the release of the album itself. These singles got me excited to see what more they could have done. I am still sad we never got to experience the full release, but I hold hope that one day we'll get to hear some of these scrapped songs. Now, we have taken a look at the songs off the album. It's time to look into the possible reasons, and even the more out there ideas, as to why the album itself was cancelled. Note these aren't what I believe myself, but are possible ideas and theories into why it was cancelled. The first thing that comes to mind for me is how the singles sound better in the music videos. The vocals were done live for those videos. The singles you'd hear on streaming services don't do the songs justice, specifically Joyful itself. Why this is perhaps the label wasn't as happy with the singles, wanting a different direction. They clearly didn't keep a consistency with the single versions sounding different from the ones that we get in the music videos. The layers add so much power to the vocals and really show off Sam's ability, especially in Don't Stay. And with some layers stripped back, it doesn't help the powerful wall of sound we are given. Personal take there about the audio quality, but perhaps that was a sign to the band that the studio wasn't truly happy with the work they were doing. Secondly, the label perhaps wanted a more rock sound, something like VHS was, which they would get with some songs off Orion. They likely weren't liking the soulful approach and experimentation too much and felt to cut the project short after letting out some of the singles to tease fans who yearned for more work by the band. Not an uncommon occurrence to happen, another recent example being the Black Eyed Peas' latest outing, Masters of the Sun Volume 1. It got dumped by the label for not following the genre the studio execs wanted. So yeah, not that far out of the realm of possibility. Third, seeing the success of Imagine Dragons just the year prior with Thunder and Believer, the label felt that perchance they could hold back Ex-Ambassadors' much anticipated follow-up in order to let Imagine Dragons get more of the spotlight, as Thunder was still holding strong at the time. Interesting that Origins, Imagine Dragons' fourth album, introduced a deeper set of lyrics and more mature themes, much as Joyful likely would have explored. Perhaps some of Ex-Ambassadors' Joyful work rubbed off on their label mate, as Imagine Dragons really went headfirst into more mature themes and origins compared to the relative light hintings beforehand. Dan even began using some of the same vocal tricks and experimentation Sam used. Who knows, maybe Origins is a reworking of what Joyful would be, but in a more evolved style. Seeing how the evolved style was successful at the time, perhaps they thought they could capitalize off the success. Makes you think, since Origins didn't perform as well as previous releases, and then out comes Orion months after Imagine Dragons' Origins relatively flopped. Perhaps the label wished to not split too much focus and just chose to delay the slightly less successful band. Overall, though, who really knows? There are many theories, but perhaps the answer the band themselves gave is the best one we will ever get. Perhaps Sam truly had grown disconnected from the album he put so much work and heart into. I know it happens to me. I work on many a project, put my heart and soul into them, but by the end I find myself in a completely different place than when I had started, and I end up scrapping the work, or if I still post it, I don't feel as proud of it. Something that just doesn't feel right sometimes, or we've grown past what initially made us begin working on it, that it just doesn't feel right to continue anymore. I feel that. I understand that side of where Sam could be coming from there. There had been a review I once read about Orion that talked very well about Joyful's cancellation. I don't believe it's online anymore, but it went over in detail rather well what they felt went down from Sam's perspective. Sometimes an artist just doesn't feel the same way they did entering a project and could want to move on to something new. Perhaps that's what happened here. I wish I could quote it more properly, only going off of memory of that review, but it was a very good one. It explained the feelings well and in much more nuance than I could ever hope to muster. But yes, perhaps it wasn't some big crazy conspiracy or some ideas given above. Maybe it was just an artistic mood change. Putting all the effort into a work, then experiencing the final result, it can change one's mind about a project, sure. I and many others would love to hear the full project one day, but for now, we have the 3 major and powerful singles. To me, that is good enough for now. They changed many a life and taught the listener lessons through their confessional nature. For that, I applaud the band for trying and succeeding to make something new, and also extremely helpful for the listener. The band's endless creativity and musical skill continue to amaze me, and I always do look forward to what they could make, especially after they made me so excited as they had. I look forward to what is coming next. We live in troubled times, and music is one way we can both escape from and learn about the world around us. Even in the times of great peril, we should always try to keep our head up and pointed forward rather than looking back. The past is gone, the future is now. We live in the present, not some storied past. Though the world may be a scary place, no matter what we face, we should always try to be joyful for the life that we have gotten and that we are still around. Be grateful for those we have gotten to spend our time with in this life, and know that we have accomplished, even if it felt like we had not. Every little thing matters. Keep looking forward, my friends. Take care and stay joyful.